I'm Megyn Kelly, live in New York City with breaking news on what is being called a conspiracy to silence conservatives. Plus, with 10 tours of duty and wounds from a roadside bomb, Army Ranger Corey Remsburg became the star of last night's State of the Union. But we'll show you how some of the media are now using him as a political prop for the president's image. Plus,
is there any reason you won't come on the Megyn Kelly show? Who just paid to be a guest tomorrow night? Mayor Zimmer?
She's been dodging the Kelly File cameras and refusing our interviews, and now we may know why. We'll show you what we dug up on the Hoboken mayor and her effort to take down Chris Christie. And then, it sounds like the stuff of horror movies, but we'll speak with the reporter who broke the story of a woman and 3 children possibly possessed by demons. And wait until you hear what happened with one of them.
I noticed that the light was flickering and making like an electronic noise. From the moment I walked in there, it stopped doing it.
Tonight on The Kelly File. But first, breaking tonight in a Kelly File exclusive, the Senate's most powerful Republican with news on what conservatives are saying is a new IRS effort to silence them. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Tonight, with the Democratic Party facing potential trouble in the midterm elections, and with the president down in the polls, there are new reports that the administration is quietly doubling down on the effort that silenced some conservative groups in the run-up to President Obama's re-election. We have been tracking these stories over the last 6 months, starting with the IRS scandal last summer, right through news this week that the DOJ is prosecuting a conservative filmmaker for allegedly making illegal campaign donations. And now reports of an effort to push back. Joining me now, Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Sir, it's great to see you here tonight. And so you are getting ready to announce a major pushback on the IRS, which has been doing what while we've not exactly been paying attention to it in recent weeks?
Yeah, well, while they're not seriously investigating the IRS scandal that I first spoke out about back during the 2012 campaign, Megyn, they're now initiating a new rule through the Treasury Department and the IRS to quiet the voices of outside groups. It's called a C4, and what they're going to do is redefine what outside groups can do in a way to silence the voices of conservative critics. A new regulation by the administration. You know how the president's been using regulations to get around Congress. They tried to do this through legislation back when they controlled both the House and the Senate, and it didn't pass. So now you're looking at an administration trying to silence the voices of their critics going into this important fall election by using a Treasury Department regulation.
Because I know, so they're basically going to try to change the rules about what these groups can do and how they qualify for this, you know, sort of tax-exempt status in the first place. But they say it's not just conservatives who will be, you know, punished, affected, whatever your word is. Liberal groups will also be affected. So why do you think it's about silencing conservatives?
Well, I don't think the voices of either the liberals or conservatives ought to be silenced by the government. I don't think it's the government's business to tell these groups they can't speak. So it's not convincing to me that it would fall on both sides. We do know, however, that this particular tax-exempt category is the same category that they were targeting conservative groups back during the 2012 campaign. So now I think what they've decided to do is to take these people off the playing field, and if it hits a few liberals, fine. But I think what they're really worried about are their conservative critics.
Let me just set the stage for the viewers, because it came out that the IRS was targeting conservatives. And both parties said, that's awful, that's terrible, we need to investigate. Then shortly thereafter, the focus seemed to turn for some to, you know what, these groups shouldn't have been granted 5013 status in the first place. They shouldn't even be applying for tax-exempt status because they're too political. That's what the Democrats started to say. And what you're basically telling me is that now the IRS, all these months later, has said, you're right, let's change the rules so that they won't have to deal with us at all because we're just going to stamp rejected as soon as they submit their applications this time.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what the key to it. You know, Nixon tried to use the IRS to go after his enemies back during Watergate, and the commissioner of IRS said no. So we've got a new commissioner over at the IRS. I think we want to see if he has the integrity to stand up to this White House like the IRS commissioner did when Richard Nixon was trying to use the IRS to achieve a political objective. Will this new, fresh IRS commissioner coming in to clean up this troubled agency be used by this White House to silence critics?
Yeah.
Will he throw the IRS right in the middle of this big political debate? I want to see a statesman over there at IRS. He got recently confirmed by the Senate. I had a conversation with him about this subject. We're counting on him not to be used by this White House to carry out their political agenda of quieting their critics.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, great to see you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Megyn.
Well, as the senator just mentioned, it has been 8 months since the DOJ launched an investigation into the IRS's targeting of conservative groups, and just a couple of weeks since the FBI said, well, don't expect criminal charges. There won't be any. This morning, some Republican senators challenged the Attorney General, that's who the FBI reports to, Eric Holder, about what's really going on.
280 days have passed. No one's been indicted. 280 days have passed, and many, if not all, of the victims have not even been interviewed.
I don't know if you've ever conducted an investigation, Senator.
How many people have been actually talked to?
I don't want to share it. I'm not necessarily sure I want to get into the specifics of what we
Well,
have done.
if the answer
or what
were
remains.
none, that would be stunning, wouldn't it?
I find it astonishing that the Department of Justice appointed a major Obama donor to head this investigation. Did you know that this lawyer was a major Obama donor?
No, I don't know anything about the political activities of any of the people who are involved in this investigation.
The integrity of the Department of Justice has been severely compromised.
Jay Sekulow is the chief legal counsel of the American Center for Law and Justice. He also represents a number of the groups targeted by the IRS. And so what we have here, it appears, Jay, is an effort by the IRS to eliminate a lot of these groups from ever really applying for tax-exempt status, or at least limit what they can do once they get that status. And then on the other hand, the question is, well, what about the victims who were targeted all those months and years? And it seems like from what we heard today, really no progress to report. And if you're waiting for criminal charges against anybody, don't hold your breath.
Well, you're right. We did not get contacted. Our clients were not contacted at all until the very end of December, when we received a call from the Department of Justice and the FBI saying that they wanted to talk to 3 of our 41 clients. And
Well,
they
that's
said
good.
they'd get back with us
That's
in the
progress
first of the year.
from not having spoken to anybody, which was how it was for all these months.
Yeah. But let me tell you what happened, though. So as we were discussing who was going to come forward and participate in these discussions with the IRS, it is leaked to the Wall Street Journal that the criminal case had, in fact, been closed. When we confronted the FBI with why are you speaking or desiring now to speak with our clients when, in fact, the criminal case has been closed, no response for them. They wouldn't confirm or deny anything. But they still said they wanted to speak to our clients. And Megyn, there's another issue here that's really significant. You mentioned it with Senator McConnell. Now the IRS, or the White House through the IRS, is talking about changing the rules that govern 501c4, these tax-exempt groups, to basically eliminate any type of political speech. Remember, they were willing to compromise back in the fall of last year, saying if you had 40% political activity, we'd automatically grant you status. Now they've changed that, and they're basically doing a post hoc justification for their illegal conduct in the first place.
Now,
so
they found an interesting solution to this problem.
We're going to let our clients go forward.
They found an interesting solution to this problem, Jay, which is this. You're right. This whole thing was such a hassle. Let's just eliminate their ability to really apply or do much at all. That'll make it nice and easy. We just rubber stamp at the beginning, no, and therefore there won't be a lengthy investigation of these groups anymore.
Yeah, you know, the only problem with that, of course, is, number one, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution protects speech, including political speech. That's number one. Number two, they have offered compromises back, as I said, in the fall, which was going to allow for political speech up to 40%. So this changing the rules and now trying, as you're saying, to basically deny these groups the right to participate in the political process at any level, we think is wrong. We will challenge it in court if necessary. But the idea that the IRS is doing this through the regulatory process and not legislation brings up a whole other issue, one you were talking about in your broadcast yesterday, and that is the president using the stroke of a pen.
And that's what Senator McConnell is suggesting, that they may try to go after this legislatively. I do want to point out to the viewers that the person at the DOJ investigating this about whether there should be criminal charges is a major Obama donor. That is what the senators were referring to in the exchange with Eric Holder. Eric Holder maintains this person has their objectivity, even though he claimed he did not know that she is a major Obama donor. Jay, good to see you.
Good to see you, Megyn.